Hi, everyone. My name is Nehal El-Hadi, and I'm a writer, researcher, and editor based in Toronto, Canada, where I live on the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. I'm really excited to be here today and have an opportunity to talk about my research on human-sand relations, and that's SAND, S-A-N-D. I'd like to say thank you to GEEX for inviting me and having me here as part of a community of brilliant thinkers, makers, and writers. I'm going to make a really grandiose statement right now, but I promise you I'll back it up. I believe that sand is the material that matters the most to what it means to be human. Before I get to that, I'm going to let you know a little bit about me just so that you can situate me in space and time and in relationship to my research. I was born in Khartoum, Sudan, and raised between there, London, UK, and Muscat, Sultanate of Oman. I've been in Canada for about 25 years, most of that time in Toronto, but I've spent a couple of years in Moose Jaw and Regina in Saskatchewan, and those are places I still go back to quite regularly. I note my personal geographies because they shape, influence, direct, and inform how and why I conduct research. I'll talk a little bit later on about a research methodology that I look at that looks at where I've been over time and how it informs my research, specifically in this case, looking at sand encounters and memories. As anybody who's moved around a lot in childhood knows, you've learned very, very quickly that you need to adjust to different ways of being based on where you are. I've had to contend with different ways of understanding the world around me. Different geographies mean different climates and topographies, and it also means different languages, cultures, traditions, and ways of being. And all of these different things inform different relationships to objects, places, temporalities, materials, and technologies. Of course, all of this is filtered through my experience and how I'm perceived in the world as a Black, Arabic speaking African Muslim woman. How I understand the world is also shaped by my professional training as an environmental journalist, my academic scholarship in urban planning, my work experience and explorations into writing and research and craft, and my own creative writing practice. My research is about making sense of the world I live in and the relationships that I have with places, objects, materials, technologies, other people, knowledge systems that inform how I am to be and how I am seen in the world. I have this grandiose meta question that guides my research. It's my 3-minute elevator pitch, but this really lofty question that looks at or runs through all of my research and my research projects is, how do our relationships with places, technologies, materials, other people, non-human and more than human life inform what it means to be human? To study this, I use relational methods. If history and recent events have taught us anything, it's that our understandings of the world are constantly changing and that there are many, many different versions of the truth. Finding meaning or understanding can only be achieved by developing our capacity to both produce and understand complex narratives, to account for historicity, to relate to context, to counter misinformation and decades of oversimplification, reduction, and erasure in the media narratives that we are fed. Relational methods deepen how we study, investigate, and make sense of the world, and in turn, how we communicate it. In my work, I often refer to narrative complexity, which I define as the ability to provide historicity, highlight connections, convey context, and suggest implications. To me, narrative complexity is both an understanding and a communication, and it assumes a political positioning in opposition to the tendency to optimize, reduce, abstract, distill, simplify, and condense. Narrative complexity requires research methods that can acknowledge and solicit multiple knowledges, that can contend with various iconographies and futurities, that can complicate space, site, location, scale, and that can account for paradoxes, counterintuitions, and inherent tensions. My approach is strongly influenced by the Haitian literary and aesthetic movement spiralism, defined by poet and artist Frank Etienne thus. Spiralism defines life at the level of relations, colors, odors, sounds, signs, words, and historical connection, positionings in space and time. Not in a closed circuit, but tracing the path of the spiral, so rich that each new curve, wider and higher than the one before, expands the arc of one's vision. In perfect harmony with the whirlwind of the cosmos, the world of speed in which we evolve, from the greatest of human adventures to struggles for liberation, spiralism aligns perfectly in breadth and depth with an atmosphere of explosive vertigo. It follows the movement that is at the very heart of all living things. It is a shattering of space and exploding of time.
Thanks for checking out this Geeks Shorts episode. This is just one of 10 chapters featuring the speaker's artwork, artistic practice, and direct conversations with the community. The full-length video, only publicly available for a limited time, can be found in the Geeks Talk subscriber archive, where you can also discover hours of content on even more contemporary glass artists and researchers. As a BIPOC and artist-led organization, GEEX redefines the culture of contemporary glass by canonizing artists and thinkers who have been historically marginalized in the field. If you'd like to support this effort, subscribe to GEEX and gain access to exclusive content. For more info, visit geeks.glass/support. Thanks to this episode's sponsors, listed on screen and in the video description below.